Trout Fishing in America by Richard Brautigan is a 1967 postmodern-ish fiction. Probably a little bit of magic realism, surreal slash absurdist, definitely. Um, I've heard the likes of Murakami cite him as an influence. I think like Don Carpenter. I think it's kind of almost in the style of vaguely beat poetry a little bit, which is kind of how I heard of him, kind of ancillary through maybe three steps away from beat poetry. Hearing about like Kerouac and Ginsberg and Burroughs but I think Brautigan wasn't actually a part of anything. He was just kind of, from what I've heard, he kind of just did his own thing. Like he didn't really like to put like too much of a genre slapped on that. And I see what he means because like it's so weird to kind of think about books and how some like, oh, this is like you're reading something that's like, oh, this is like eerily modern or something. It reminds me of something that like something by Machado de Assis by 1880 something or other, like his posthumous memoirs of Grand Brands Bras Cubas, like how that kind of like resonates as something being like discreetly modern, yet at the same time it's like been so long, and it's like so yeah, it is I think genres are kind of a not a moot point entirely, but they help kind of create some discernment between like at the bookstore when you're helping it. But beyond that, I don't think you should take them all too seriously on a personal note. So yeah, Trout Fishing in America is an interesting thing with it's a novella. It's pretty easy to read, I'd say. Probably 3 hours or so read. I liked how the the title, it actually doesn't really. It's not about trout fishing in a sense, in the same way that. I think I've seen that kind of trope employed where it's like like you have certain movies that might be called like something and it's like not that. So yeah, in that sense, it is about trout fishing in some sense. But in kind of a tongue in cheek way of. Kind of like citing off different things, and it's like about this guy that's calls himself, and it kind of uses Trout Fishing in America as both the title and as different characters throughout the novel, and then some. I think there's like an older guy also named Trout Fishing in America. Sometimes it's like there's like I think a movie or something at the end called Trout Fishing in America as well. So it's like it kind of refers. It's almost like a catch-all term in some sense, which I thought was funny. Pretty offbeat style Brautigan has. He talks about like kind of like it was written in a pretty short time when he was like camping with some friends in Idaho, I think, and yeah, Brautigan had a pretty rough childhood. Like he was born to like broke kind of family that would that were just like barely be able to like kind of make ends meet. He was early age. He was also suffered a lot with I think like I think with schizophrenia, some sense of I'm not sure it was paranormal, where he was like hallucinating. But he did definitely have visions and all that, and that kind of influenced him in a way that you see that with the magic realism that takes place, especially near the end of the novel. But yeah, so he wrote Trout Fishing in America. It was published in 1967, but he wrote it, I think, much earlier, like the early 60s. And in a way, it was kind of, his published, it was kind of like, his own kind of, it's almost like a venture catalog of like going around. And I think like he mentioned like in the way that America's Kafka, like he talked about, was this in the book? I've read so many books recently that I'm mixing up some of them. Like some of them like it might be entirely different book that I heard this, but I think it was Brautigan mentions Kafka having read America after reading about like I think Benjamin Franklin's kind of like Penny Dreadful kind of like serial kind of thing, and he was like enthused by that, and he was like like this adventure thing. So I think that it's sort of similar spirit. There's like a lot of adventure kind of like ooh, and then on the cover of it too, which I don't have, it shows this statue of black and white statue of the mustachioed Theodore Roosevelt, down in, I think in California somewhere, like in San something. I'm not sure where it was exactly, but it was a famous thing. It was a famous thing. It also takes place in the novel too. Yeah, it is a fractured narrative. There's like different kind of stories taking place, prose poems that, like one of them, it concerns a older man who's kind of like a dirty and kind of very, just shouting at the cops, and he's like almost like very irate and just obscene, and then eventually like he starts kind of almost malfunctioning in a way, and they're like, we're gonna ship him off, so they like take him off in this crate and they ship him off to Chicago, presumably to get, I guess, repaired. I don't know, but it was I thought that was funny. um, yeah, like trout fishing in America becomes like this kind of thing where it's like, like a funny, and there's also like little tongue-in-cheek recipes that he mentions too, where he's like, how to make this, and it's like, add this, add another spoonful for your pleasure, or whatever. Use your like try to use reason, like use like within reason, use like how many heaps of this you want or something, and he's like, for more of a salty flavor. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So yeah, trout fishing in America, he towards the end it gets pretty kind of hectic. Like there's like some scenes that kind of like they start and they kind of like you think they're gonna go one way and it's a totally different way. Um, Absurd, yeah. It's like him walking into this kind of a '60s free love kind of place or the shop, and then making love with the girl like upstairs, and then it turns out like that she was like the guy at the counter is like saying that she belongs to everybody or something like that, and it's just one of those things where it's like it's very it sounded kind of very almost like hippie-ish. It's like the culture of that time, obviously. um, Kind of remind me kind of Father Yod and the Source Family Court cult restaurant kind of place in early '70s that came crashing down almost literally in like probably the mid '70s. Um, Sorry, I've been watching too many documentaries on that lately. So yeah, trout fishing in America. Brautigan had a very dismal end. He actually committed suicide with a shotgun, I believe, and yeah, he wasn't able to. There's some works he had finished, but he, in a sense that he was very. It was like a Hemingway type of thing. He mentions Hemingway in this too, and suicide, the famous Hemingway suicide, I think, and how that impacted him too. But yeah, I think the main thing with Brautigan too is like he felt that trout fishing in America was kind of an American novel too. Like it's something that you might not get, but then oddly enough, he was actually widely received, well accepted in Japan, and he ended up spending a good amount of his life there. There's some interviews with him there, but yeah, he felt like almost like that was the only place where people kind of got him in a way. Yeah, yeah. Brautigan's Trout Fishing in America. I'd like to read more of his stuff. Definitely In Watermelon Sugar is on my list. But let me know what you think as well. Thanks for watching.